With the season winding down, we think now's a good time to look back at the players each club has signed and decide each Premier League club's worst signing this season. Arsenal Denis Suarez. Arriving on loan in January from Barcelona, the Spaniard probably wishes that he hadn't bothered. His time in North London has been a disaster, starting off with a shocking debut off the bench away to Manchester City. That set the tone for Suarez, who has made just 4 appearances for Arsenal, all off the bench. And now his season is over due to injury, with some fans claiming he was more pointless than Kim Kallstrom. Bournemouth Dominic Solanke. This looked a bad deal at the time, and it's proven to be so far. The young forward cost the Cherries 19 million quid from Liverpool as they continue to just throw money at Anfield in the hope that something sticks. Solanke's goal scoring record wasn't good before his move to Dean Court, and it certainly hasn't got any better. Maybe next season will be the one for Solanke, but at the minute things aren't looking good. Brighton Alireza Jahanbakhsh. Costing £17 million last summer, Alireza Jahanbakhsh became Brighton's most expensive player ever, and in almost a year on he's now Brighton's biggest waste of money too. The Iranian hasn't improved Chris Hughton's attack, although that can be hard in a ridiculously defensive team. However, the wingers provided 0 goals and 0 assists for the Seagulls, not good at all. Burnley Matej Vydra. We could have copped out here and gone for Joe Hart, but let's give the lad a break. Him dropping out of the team to be replaced by Tom Heaton has worked wonders for the Clarets. So we've decided to go for Matej Vydra, who once again proved he's a championship striker, unable to step up a division after winning the second tier's Golden Boot last season. Vydra hasn't had many opportunities at Turf Moor and will surely head back to the championship in the summer. Cardiff City Josh Murphy. Those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it, and that's exactly what happened here. Cardiff should have taken note of Newcastle's failed move for twin Jacob Murphy, who the season prior had proven to be far from good enough for the Premier League, so why would his twin Josh be any different? The winger has had the odd moment, but wasn't the kind of player Cardiff needed to keep them up. Chelsea Gonzalo Higuain. There was a lot of excitement when Higuain moved to Stamford Bridge, taking Alvaro Morata's place as the main striker. But the Argentinian is a shadow of his former self, with his movement being pretty much non-existent. Higuain doesn't look up to the standard, which is a worry for a Chelsea side who have a transfer ban and don't have a striker they can rely on. Crystal Palace Jordan Ayew. If this lad is a Premier League player again next season, I'll be amazed. The Ghanaian continues to get a gig in the top flight and I've no idea how, he's woeful. If Palace sign him permanently in the summer as anything more than a squad player, then they need to have a word with themselves. The lad can barely score for toffee, unlike his brother who's half decent. Everton Yerry Mina. A lot was expected when Everton signed Yerry Mina from Barcelona, with the defender on the back of a strong World Cup showing for Colombia. But injury has totally ruined his debut season in England, which isn't what you want when your Marco Silva and a huge chunk of your budget has been spent on a player who's never fit enough to get on the pitch. Fulham Jean-Michel Seri. I mean, a lot of Fulham signings were bad, but Seri's arrival is probably the one with the most hype around it. The midfielder swapped Nice for Craven Cottage, despite being linked with a move to Barcelona not long before his transfer, and he probably wonders where it all went wrong. While Barcelona win La Liga and have one foot in the Champions League final, Seri is going to be a championship player next season, unless he leaves of course, which he probably will. I can't say I'm fancying Wigan away if I'm honest. Huddersfield Adama Diakhaby. An expensive signing for a club like Huddersfield, Adama Diakhaby has done nothing to justify his price tag, despite a few pacey runs that resulted with no end product. The Frenchman wasn't the answer to Huddersfield's attacking woes, and he'll hope to do better in the Championship next season, which is where the Terriers are heading. Leicester City Rachid Ghazal. It's not as easy as replacing one Algerian with another. When Riyad Mahrez went to City, Leicester tried to replace him with Rachid Ghazal, and while he certainly has similar skills, Ghazal's impact at the King Power hasn't quite been the same. While Mahrez was a transformative player for the Foxes, Ghazal just frustrates the fans, and he's hardly featured since Brendan Rodgers took over. Liverpool Naby Keita. This one's harsh, but we've got to pick someone, and Naby Keita has probably been the least impressive. The midfielder was signed a year in advance, but his impact in the Liverpool midfield has been non-existent pretty much. Only in recent weeks has Keita added goals to his game, which has hindered his debut season in the Premier League. Injuries have also stopped Keita really making a mark at Anfield, and Reds fans will be praying he plays a bigger role next season. Manchester City Riyad Mahrez. His mega money move to Manchester City just hasn't gone to plan, has it? After years of anticipation, Mahrez finally moved to the Etihad, and a year later he's threatening to leave because he hasn't played enough. I mean, there's a reason for that to be fair, one being that Bernardo Silva has been playing out of his skin. Mahrez can barely get a kick in a City shirt, but he could have won the title months ago had he not blazed that penalty over the bar at Anfield. Manchester United Fred. The recruitment at Old Trafford has been poor lately, with Fred on a long list of signings who haven't been up to standard. While he's certainly energetic, the Brazilian has just been so inconsistent in a Manchester United shirt. Even in individual games he can be great for 5 minutes, then the next 5 he can't string a pass together. There's definitely a player in there, and it's up to Solskjaer to get him out, because at the minute he's just another Ed Woodward transfer disaster. Newcastle United Yoshinori Muto. The Japanese forward cost Newcastle £9.5 million, which is a fair wage when you're owned by Mike Ashley, but the lad's barely had a kick. His crowning moment was a goal at Old Trafford, but that's been the only positive for Yoshinori Muto. Too often resigned to a place on the bench, this has been an absolute waste of money by the Magpies, who don't get much to spend to begin with. Southampton Mohamed El Yunusi. It must be so painful for Southampton fans, knowing they replaced Dusan Tadic with Mohamed El Yunusi. Tadic is now a machine at Ajax, being involved in something crazy like 50 goals, strangely operating as a striker. Meanwhile, the Saints haven't been too hot in attack, with Tadic's replacement proving to be an absolute bust. El Yunusi hasn't matched expectations, having initially shown some flashes of talent in a Saints shirt. Tottenham didn't sign anyone, so let's move on. Watford Mark Navarro. This was tricky as Watford haven't really had any dud signings, but Mark Navarro's hardly had a kick of the ball, so that's the reason we've picked him. I feel a bit bad, so I'm just going to move on. But that was a nice picture of him feeding a squirrel, so at least he's a good guy. Hopefully he plays a bit more next season. In fact, start him in the cup final, play him up front. West Ham Carlos Sanchez. We could have picked Jack Wilshere here, but we've hammed him enough over the season, it's time to move on. Carlos Sanchez was another bad signing, maybe even worse, because it came out of nowhere. At least Wilshere had a reputation. The only memories people had of Carlos Sanchez was that awful season he spent at Aston Villa, and surprisingly he's been no better at West Ham, spending most of his time with Jack Wilshere in the physio. And finally Wolves Adama Traore. I'm so happy to have been proven right here. Adama Traore is nothing more than a speed merchant who can look good on flashes on Match of the Day. He's a great dribbler, we know that already, but in the Premier League he's got no end product, which isn't good enough when you cost 18 million quid. Wolves have been exceptional this season, but the one disappointment, apart from flopping the FA Cup semi-final, has to be how Dross Traore has looked in old gold. So that's every Premier League club's worst signing of the season. Let us know yours in the comments below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.